In this video we're going to be covering the basics of creating animation in Max using CAT. We'll start by creating a new CAT rig, and we do this by going to the Helpers menu, dropping down the list box to CAT Objects, and clicking on the CAT Parent button. In the Rig Presets list we'll select Clown and click in the viewport and drag to create a new clown rig. Now if we select any bone on the CAT rig and go to the Motion panel, we can see our Layer Manager user interface. The Layer Manager is the core to managing all the different layers that are created on your character as you animate using CAT. Currently all the buttons are disabled, and that is because we have no layers on our character. Our character is currently in what we call Setup Pose, and Setup Pose is a non-animatable pose that the character can always return to when you need to edit things like skin weights. So the first thing we'll do is add a new layer. We do this by clicking on the Add Layer button and looking at the 4 different options we have available. The first one is Absolute Layers, and these are the core to all animation in Max using CAT. The second 2 are Adjustment Layers. The first one is a Local Space Adjustment Layer, the second is a World Space Adjustment Layer, and the 4th layer option is our procedural CAT Motion Walk Cycle system that we'll come back to later. So we'll start by adding a new Absolute Layer. We can now take our character out of Setup Pose and begin animating. Animation in Max using CAT is the same as animation using any bone hierarchy. To create keyframes, you select bones, and with the Auto Key button turned on, we start moving objects in the viewport. As we move the objects, keyframes are created. The legs on this character have defaulted to IK, so our legs are in IK while we move the pelvis, and the keyframes are on this ribcage and head. We can also see in the track view. So if we want to look at the keyframes that have been created, we click on the Curve Editor window. This brings up our new Curve Editor, and we would probably do well to filter all unselected objects. So turn on Selected Only, press OK, and now we can see our clown head. On the basic transform controller for this clown head, we've got Layer Trans and our weighting controller. So if we open up Layer Trans, this Layer Trans controller maintains all the different layers that are on this head, and currently we only have one called Animation Layer. If we open this up, we've got a standard Max Position Rotation Scale controller, and if we look at this controller we can see we've got the normal keyframes that have been created, and we've got our standard default rotation and position controllers on the different channels. So here we can see the curves that have been created for the different keyframes on this head, and we can do things like add new keyframes to this head object, and we can also edit existing keyframes. We can also reassign different kinds of controllers. So one thing we can do here is right click on the rotation channel and assign a different controller. We may choose to use a TCB rotation controller to get TCB interpolation, which is slightly smoother and more effective during dynamic large sweeps of motion. We can select objects and move them around, and if we select the palm and move it, it actually creates keyframes on the whole arm by using the IK solution to solve for the shape of this arm. All limbs that are in IK have an IK target, and here we can see if we select this square object at the base of the leg, this is the foot platform, and this allows us to control the position of the IK solution. If we move this object around, we get IK being solved on our leg. Other tools include, if we select the palm and come to the Motion panel, we have a Digit Manager. The Digit Manager is very useful for quickly posing up our hands by simply curling and spreading our digits. It also includes a Preset Manager which allows us to load in presets that can keyframe our entire character's hand very quickly. These presets are ambidextrous, which means that if we load a preset from one hand, we can also load it onto another hand. So if I load the same point pose, it'll work on both left hands and right hands. So it's very easy to animate using CAD, and we have a selection of tools which make animation very quick and easy.